ballets. Some of you are here to celebrate Jocelyn Terell Allen and the work that she has done on this very important new book called Early Days, Early Dancers. And this has been a long time coming. This was initially an idea of doing a book launch in person with all of Jocelyn's friends. And then something happened in the world. I don't know what it was, but something happened.
That's right.
And we've had to regroup, and we're assembling together in the virtual world of Zoom. And we've got a hot slate of people speaking, including a great video of Jocelyn talking a bit as well. So we're going to spend the next probably half an hour to 40 minutes with some special guests, including Joysanne Sidimus, who is one of well, she is the founder of the DTRC and one of the people that's going to be speaking about the connection to Jocelyn and also the early days of the National Ballet. And Amanda Hancox is going to be talking about her connection to Jocelyn as well, her relationship, and I feel like I am the new kid on the block, because I am the executive director now of the DTRC, and I'm very happy and proud that we're putting on this event. But I feel like I don't have the history that many of the people on this call do. And then once we finish our discussion of the book and presentation, we're going to have a little bit of a break, so you can do a little bit of a run to the washroom or a walk to the washroom, have a glass of water, or maybe something stronger. And then our friend Amy Bowring from the DCD, Collection Danse, is going to do a little bit of a grassroots archiving workshop. So for those of you who are
Whoops. You're muted, Christian.
Put yourself on mute.
Christian, yeah, you muted yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, Amy is going to walk us through a little bit of a grassroots archiving workshop, which I'm very excited to learn more about as well. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Hannah, our intern. I want to thank Hannah and Corolla, by the way, for all the great work they've done in preparing this. And obviously, this is really an important night about Jocelyn. And you will, for those of you that have seen the book, I mean, it's just hot off the press. There is a foreword by Kain, and we were fortunate enough to actually have Kain do a little bit of a recording, so we're going to, I believe, play that right now. So enjoy.
Those of us who have enjoyed long and satisfying careers through the most recent decades at the National Ballet of Canada owe an enormous debt of gratitude to the pioneers who came before us. It is wonderful to read of the trials, tribulations, and the triumphs of those early years, and to imagine how different it must have been when the company was founded in the 1950s. The first-person accounts conjure the sights, the smells, and the sweat that contributed to those formative years. The remembrances written of those who have left us embody the kindness and courage that forms the foundations of the National Ballet of Canada. A huge thank you to you all who participated in bringing this important part of our history to life, and a special thank you to Jocelyn Allen for the Herculean effort to bring these stories together here in Early Days, Early Dancers. To those whose shoulders we all stand upon, many, many thanks.
So now we're going to play a little bit of introduction that Jocelyn has put together. So Hannah, over to you again.
Hello, I'm Jocelyn Terell Allen, and I wrote the book Early Days, dancing transition Joysanne for hosting us. And thank you too to Amy Bowring for sharing the evening with us. I'm excited to share the stories of myself and my colleagues from the 50s told in their own voices. In some ways, the dance world has changed, but young dancers now will still connect to the drive and passion of the dancers of the past. As I live with PSP, speaking is quite difficult for me. So tonight, the wonderful Tiffany Maxwell-Graovac assisted me so ably with the research and adding on a book. Will speak on my behalf. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, Jocelyn. That was amazing. I know you put a lot of effort into getting those words recorded, so it was very, very effective. Now I'd like to ask Tiffany, who Jocelyn refers to, who assisted with editing and researching the book. She's actually performed a little bit of an interview with Jocelyn, and she's going to now present that.
This is me speaking on Jocelyn's behalf, and I hope you enjoy this wonderful information and stories I got from her. I wrote Early Days, Early Dancers because I saw a difference in publicity between the dancers of the 50s and the luminaries that were to follow in the decades after, such as Rudolf Nureyev, Eric Brun, and Alexander Grant. But the 50s were my era, and I got to see the wonderful principal dancers of this time up close. I wanted to write about them and record as much as I could. Their influence on the shaping of dance and dance education in Canada is deep and sometimes difficult to see. I think the greater visibility of the company after the 1950s was due to swelling popularity of ballet across Canada generally. That was encouraged by sensational dance-related stories like the defection of Rudolf Nureyev and Mikhail Baryshnikov from the USSR, both of whom worked closely with the National Ballet. But immense credit also goes to Norman Campbell, producer at CBC, who worked with Celia Franca in the company's early years to bring Canadian ballet to people's homes nationwide. It became a wonderful feedback loop of greater visibility of ballet in Canada, leading to more talented people wanting to become involved with ballet, leading to greater visibility of ballet in Canada. The company in the 1950s truly put down roots for something wonderful. I started this project by writing a list of questions to ask my former National Ballet colleagues. I wanted to ask questions that would encourage them to discuss their training as dancers, as this was before the National Ballet School was founded, and there was more uneven technical and stylistic knowledge among the early dancers of the company. It fell to Celia Franca and Betty Oliphant to get us looking like a cohesive group. Of course, a big reason for their success was our eagerness as their dancers and students to make the company as polished as possible. I also wanted to hear their perspective on their experiences in the National Ballet. It was fascinating to see what memories stuck out most for people, especially comparing them to my own. Multiple people might remember the same event slightly differently, while other events that loomed large in the minds of some dancers barely registered in others. But I was also amazed at the things I learned about their lives prior to joining the company. In the years we were all dancing together, we were so focused on our collective goal to achieve this vision of a professional ballet company that anything not dance-related almost seemed to not exist. For example, I learned that Bob Ito began his career in the arts at age 5 when he won $25 in a competition at the Pacific National Exhibition. When he was 6 years old, he began studying singing, elocution, and tap dancing, and performing on radio programs and at festivals. However, as a young Canadian boy, but of Japanese origin, his family spent the years of World War II in an internment camp in British Columbia. After they were released, they were located to a farm in Alberta, where Bob sang in the Mormon Children's Choir. Under martial law, the only city where his family was allowed to live was Montreal, and that is where Bob began studying ballet. His group, Ballet Entre Nous, was invited to attend the new National Ballet Summer School, and from there he was selected by Celia Franca to join the National Ballet Company. As more memories flowed in from the dancers, I enjoyed poring over some of the more lighthearted memories from performing. Performing was both our biggest stress and, of course, our greatest love. I myself fell on stage many times, once during my entrance as the operetta star in Offenbach in the Underworld, but I still managed to finish my solo on the beat and the audience was on my side. But in a close-knit company of restless creative minds, mischief sometimes ensued. Several dancers actually recounted one particular prank on tour in 1957. Here is Edelaine Brandt's account. One night down south, Miss Franca was dancing Swanilda in Coppelia to a house of no more than 30 people. When she flung open the drape to reveal Coppelia, a life-size doll, there sat our stage manager, David Haber, in a full doll costume with wig in place and batting long false eyelashes. Franca let out a small yelp, but, being a consummate professional, held it all together. But everyone else on stage lost it, even though we knew a stern lecture would follow, and it did. I remember this joke myself and laughing while dreading Celia's anger to come, even though Celia thought it was funny too. I was constantly in fear of Celia's anger, despite how kind, funny, and helpful she could often be as a teacher and mentor. Her disapproval was just something none of us took lightly. But at least this was an example of a silly thing happening on stage that was under our control. Unexpected silly things happened on stage all the time. Once, in a performance of Antic Spring, I was partnered with Yves Cousineau, and toward the end of our pas de deux, the scenery started falling over. But as Yves lifted me, we set the set piece back upright, saving the day. Our venues were wildly different every night on tour, so we often had to make do with less than perfect setups, and we learned to take it laughing. When we were lucky, we performed in actual theaters. More than once, we performed in gymnasiums with nothing more than a large piece of white paper as our only backdrop. We also had so many nights performing in the southern US where the air was unbearably hot and sticky. Makeup would melt off of us and all over our costumes, and then onto the faces of the poor boys. The wardrobe workers would be working day and night to scrub makeup off the white costumes, and we were performing in damp tutus most of the time. And then there was the time when a small black and white dog got onto the stage at the Carter Barron Amphitheater somehow, during a performance of the eminently romantic ballet Les Sylphides. It scrambled all over the stage, cheerfully sniffing the dancers, until a stagehand slithered out from off stage and yanked it back into the wings. Another story sent by Edelaine Brandt that I remember very well is when the company was in Miami Beach and we were sent to the beach to do a photo shoot for Swan Lake. As Edelaine put it, being young and knowing it was snowing back in Toronto, we stayed to frolic on the sand. Miss Franca took one look at our neon sunburns and scathingly told us we looked more like flamingos than swans. I was one of the chastened flamingos, and I remember this moment well. I was worried there wouldn't be enough wet white, the white body makeup we used for ballets like Swan Lake, to hide the sunburn, and then what would Celia say? Luckily, between makeup and stage lights, we all looked sufficiently swan-like that evening. Just one more incident to handle with as much grace as possible, and grace is fundamental to a dancer's life, after all. Back in the 50s and early 60s, transitioning out of a ballet career could be a bit haphazard. Some of my colleagues transitioned naturally into teaching dance or found work in other areas of the performing arts. From the stories sent to me, dancing clearly made many of us resilient and resourceful. Many of the dancers from that time left dancing behind and started unrelated careers almost completely from scratch, often going back to school to start. As my colleague Myrna Aaron put it, we just did things in a different order. Sometimes ending a dance career was due to injury. Sometimes it was simply because the time for dancing had passed for us and we wanted to pursue new passions. Sometimes the seed for the new passion was planted while still in the company. Janet Green Foster, for example, was inspired to take a camera with her when we went on tour and photograph the fascinating changes of scenery as she stared out the windows of our tour bus. When we were on set at the CBC filming the company's numerous television specials, Janet learned about television production and also made many connections at the studio. On leaving the National Ballet, she began to work for the CBC, eventually putting the photography and love of wilderness to use in several award-winning nature documentaries and books. The unique life she had experienced in the National Ballet both inspired her and helped her when it was time to forge a new path. I, unfortunately, was one of those dancers who had to end my career due to injury, and I was inconsolable for it. The cover of the book shown at the beginning of the webinar is a publicity shot from one of my last ballets, 1 in 5, with Patrick Hurd and Hans Meisner. I tried teaching dance, like many former performers, but found it hard being so near and yet so far from what I loved. I was at loose ends. Finally, I went to Shaw Business College to learn touch typing, tears rolling down my cheeks the whole time. I never got better than 30 words per minute. Eventually, at my father's urging, I went to York University. While I loved learning and the world that opened up to me because of school, I sometimes wish there had been an organization like the Dancers Transition Resource Center back then. With an organization like DTRC, who knows what sort of options I might have discovered for myself. This book has been an immense labor of love for me, and I must stress my gratitude to everyone who contributed their memories and stories along the way. Now that it's finished, of course I want all kinds of people to read and enjoy it. But for readers closer to my age, I hope the book sparks memories and inspires connection with the younger generation, especially younger dancers, who can read this book and see how the world of dance has changed, but how it has also stayed the same. I hope this glance into Canada's creative past helps the reader see the incredible potential of its creative future, even in times as unusual as these. And as always, in everything I do, I want to encourage young people to love ballet and to dance.
Fantastic, Tiffany. Wow. And Jocelyn, obviously, this was a team effort. So makes me want to read this book. And I just got my copy, so very excited. Now I'd like to ask Joysanne Sidimus if she would like to say a few words. Hopefully we can. Is she muted? Is she on?
You're on mute, Joysanne.
Yeah, yes. Go. There you go, Joysanne.
Yeah?
Perfect.
Okay. Sorry, my first. I would like to talk about the author. I first met Jocelyn Allen in 1963 when I joined the National Ballet. So our time in the company sort of just overlapped very briefly. But I distinctly remember her lyrical, beautiful movement quality, coupled with artistic choices always made with consummate taste. She also has a wonderful sense of humor in life and on stage. And I'm so glad to see that 1 in 5 is on the cover, because I remember you in that so distinctly. I never saw her Swan Lake on stage, but I certainly saw a film, and she was absolutely lovely. This was an era 12 years after the founding, when we still toured on buses and did one-night stands, often on wooden stages, as you mentioned before Josie, sometimes in gymnasiums and in movie theaters. It was grueling. But this was a group of extraordinary artists, iconoclastic, passionate, fun, and committed, led by the amazing Celia Franco. And these are only later memories of an extraordinary founding era. In the company and later, we became friends. And I discovered this is a woman of massive intelligence and a discerning mind. When the DTRC was founded, she became a very important member of the board. I asked her to join the board and I was thrilled when she said yes, because Josie took nothing for granted. Nobody was going to rubber stamp anything as long as Jocelyn Terell Allen was in the room. When she told me of her intention to write this book and asked me to write something for it, I was really honored. The importance of legacy and those memories from firsthand witnesses becomes vital at this point when so many have sadly already left us. We are so fortunate that she has taken on this task because she understands this and can recreate for this all-important founding era, especially since 2021 is the company's 70th anniversary. And she is helping us in revealing the beginning of that history. Lastly, in this technologically ephemeral universe, it will be wonderful to have this printed book in our hands. Congratulations, Jocelyn. Thank you for this important undertaking. I can't wait to read it.
I couldn't agree with you more, Joysanne. It's just so nice to be able to touch something as opposed to scroll on an iPad or, you know, look at your computer monitor. So I'm very excited to be able to smell and feel this book as I go through it. Amanda is another close friend of, Amanda Hancox is another close friend of Jocelyn's, and she has kindly also, she has zoomed on with us tonight to say a few words. So Amanda, over to you.
Hello, Jocelyn. And really, it's an honor to be able to celebrate your book and you this evening, and I thank everyone for including me in this. During my time at the DTRC, I got to know Jocelyn first as a longstanding member of the DTRC's Advisory Council and also a donor, but subsequently as a good friend. We shared the love of arts of all kinds and would often get together to see dance shows or music, sometimes book festivals, and later would have wonderful discussions about what we'd seen. And as Joysanne said, everyone who knows Jocelyn knows the sense of humor she has. And so over the years, I found that emails from Josie would always brighten my day. She expounded on just the simple quirks of life because she is a terrific writer. And I know how much writing means to her. And we talked a lot about books and writing, and especially the book that she wanted to write about the early dancers. And I think the fact that Jocelyn has written this book just shows how much she cares about the pioneers who devoted their lives to this art form. In fact, when Lois Smith passed away in 2011, Jocelyn felt it was really vital that Lois's life accomplishments should be remembered. And lucky for us, she thought the DTRC was an appropriate place to do that. And so along with Vanessa Harwood Scully, she spearheaded a campaign to remember Lois Smith with a memorial cornerstone brick on the DTRC's Wall of Honor, which was part of our Buy a Brick, Build a Future campaign. And I know that Jocelyn personally reached out to friends and fans of Lois's around the world to support this and to honor Lois. And I remember her emailing one day saying, I've just sent out 100 letters. And between Jocelyn and Vanessa, they raised an impressive $9,000 to help dancers facing career transition, which was really, wonderful and a remarkable tribute. And Jocelyn, I know, really cares about this country's dancers, not just the ones from the past, but really those emerging into the field as well. We had many conversations about what life was like for a dancer just entering the career in those days, and how much different it is now, and the support that dancers who are starting a dance career have now. And she's always been a big fan of the DTRC's On the Move program, which is for emerging artists. And she'd say, "Oh, you know, what have you got on the program this year? I'd love to come and join you." She's always been fascinated, of course, to know what new ventures transitioning dancers are going into, and is delighted by the broad spectrum of careers that they take on. And I know that a number of them have taken writing as their new career, which she's really enjoyed. The caring and support and generosity that Jocelyn and Peter have shown the DTRC is really extraordinary, and we are truly blessed. I'm particularly grateful for all Jocelyn's done for this organization. So thank you, Jocelyn. And just to finish up, I'm so thrilled that this book launch, despite a global pandemic, is taking place. I know at one point Jocelyn said to me, and this is a quote because she sent it in an email, she said, "I've discovered that I'm an expert procrastinator and I'm trying to take myself in hand." Well, Jocelyn, I say you've done an excellent job of taking yourself in hand, and today is the proof. So bravo and congratulations.
Sorry, I was just muted for a second. Thanks so much, Amanda. Those are very kind words, and certainly my brief interactions with Jocelyn really sort of reinforce her sense of humor and her obvious love for the art form, and that comes through not only through the support of the DTRC, but through work on books like this. So, I mean, Jocelyn, you are doing so much and in so many different ways to keep the art form alive and remembered. So we thank you for that. So now it seems like a good opportunity to maybe do a little bit of marketing for your book, Jocelyn. We do have Luciana from Inanna, the publisher, here, and I believe she might want to say a few words about a special deal that people can get on this book just for attending this evening. So not only do you get to see the wonderful Jocelyn, but you also might get a little bit of a break on buying this book, should you so desire. So Luciana, if you'd like to say a few words, you can unmute yourself and we can give you the floor for the Zoom.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, Christian.
No
And
problem.
I'm very happy to say briefly just a very few words about the book and about Jocelyn. I would like to say that I've known Jocelyn for many years, met her many, many moons ago. However, I met Jocelyn as an academic through mutual friends, and we were both in school together at the same time, at university together, and finishing our MA at the University of Toronto. And when I met Jocelyn, we talked a lot about literature and a lot about poetry and a lot about women's studies. And we were students together at a class at U of T, both finishing our graduate work. I never got a chance to know Jocelyn as a dancer, but I always knew she was a dancer because she always had this beautiful grace of movement, and she was just glorious to watch, and she still is. You look beautiful tonight, Jocelyn. And so it was a real pleasure for me when Jocelyn came to us with this book, and I got to see another side of Jocelyn, the Jocelyn that I didn't know, but now know so much better. And we are so thrilled and delighted to have published this fantastic book. And we are offering a special offer, and I'll put it up on the chat when I'm finished. Anybody who's attending the launch, or if you know anybody who would like to buy the book, we're offering 20% off today and tomorrow up until midnight. And they just have to go to our website and type in the coupon code, which is early20. And as I said, I'll put it up on the chat for you. But more than anything, what was important for me tonight was to be able to tell Joss how much I love her and how grateful I am to her, and how generous and kind she has also always been to our press and to Canadian Women's Studies Journal, which we also publish, and what an honor it was for us to publish this book and to count Jocelyn now as an Inanna author and having joined our Inanna community. So thank you, Jocelyn, for everything. And congratulations on this wonderful accomplishment. And thank you, DTRC, for allowing us to hosting this launch for Jocelyn tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luciana, and congratulations, Jocelyn. I would be remiss if I didn't also mention our sister organization that is involved in tonight's events. The DCD, Danse Collection Danse, are putting on the second half of our evening. And I know, Jocelyn, you're also a big supporter of the DCD. So I want to make sure that people are aware of that organization and certainly check out their website. And I'm sure Amy in the second half will make sure to do that and mention information about the DCD. So that's going to be our end point for the first portion of the evening. If you'd like to take a break, we're going to stay online. And why don't we agree to maybe commence, shall we say, do we still want to start at 6:45, Amy, or would you like to maybe start at 6:50? What works for you?
6:45 is fine. Yeah, let's do that.
So we'll just have a little bit of a break. If people want to scoot, get some water, or a little bio break, as they say on Zoom, that's up to you. And I want to just finally thank again Jocelyn for this great effort, and I'm so happy that we could be part of this, and it wasn't totally derailed by this event wasn't derailed by the pandemic, so we shall overcome. So thank you, everyone, and please stick around for the DCD talk in about 5 minutes.